Hello, beautiful, magical souls. Welcome, 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 welcome. Are you making fun of me already?
No, it's
Okay.
just it's our thing. It's our thing.
It's my thing that you make fun of, and it's our thing that we're here together. We see so many beautiful, friendly faces, so many people we love on here already. We're so excited. We're so excited. We're going to give it another minute. So if you can, let us know in the chat, number one, like how you're feeling. And number two, if you are watching with your partner tonight, or if you're watching solo and then maybe taking the replay to your partner later, we'd love to see in the chat what everybody's situation is tonight. I had some people asking, can we watch without our partner? We're like, absolutely. You can always watch this and take it to your partner later. That is absolutely a-okay. And we know that this masterclass was kind of a last minute deal, just promoting it for a couple of days, but we wanted to have some fun as we are actually launching the Sacred Union Blueprint tonight. To y'all first, of course, anybody on the list. We were so ecstatic that we had almost 200 people on the wait list for the
Mhm.
Sacred Union Blueprint. And we just feel so grateful that we get to share this mission with y'all.
Our
Yeah,
journey.
our
Yeah.
journey. Yeah. All right, let's see here. Feeling fantastic, and David is working, and we'll catch the replay later. Awesome, Coco. We're so happy you're here. Watching solo, feeling good. Hi, Stacy. Nick in the house, feeling so good and happy to be here. We're so excited that you and Jess are here. We love y'all so much. Yay, Joel and Heather, we're both doing great. Life is busy right now, but overall we're thriving. I love that. So happy y'all are here. Feeling great, watching solo. Welcome, Jamie. Welcome. Okay, so as more people might come on in just a little bit, we want to go ahead for those that are going to be watching the replay. We kind of know all of you on right now, but those that are going to be watching the replay, we want to introduce ourselves a little bit so that anybody that's new to our world gets to know us
Yeah.
before we dive in and share about being surrendered and steadfast and what that actually means to us in our union, and also what has transpired to get us here, and our tips and teachings to help you start to anchor in more of that surrendered wife and steadfast husband, because we know how important these polarity teachings, if you will, have changed everything for us. And that's exactly what we want to teach you tonight. So you want to tell them who you are?
There you go. So for y'all that do not know, my name is Danny Hill. I've been a career fireman for almost 2 decades now. Certified SWAT medic. I do contracting. I love the tactical guru stuff. Also do jujitsu. So I'm very a man's man, right? I love violence, but also love the polarity of also having the compassionate soft side as well. And I didn't always have that. In the fire service in general, we're taught not to express the emotions, not to be able to show how we are feeling, not to communicate. So I come from a background of being very shut off, not just in the fire service, but also as a child as well. Had a very rough upbringing, but it all came to the surface, and finally, I didn't know what to do with it, and my cup came overflowing, and everything came spilling out. And I'm really grateful for our journey because it actually led us into what truly needed to be addressed, what truly needed to be healed. So now I'm running wild with it, and I'm creating a space for men to truly show up. So since then, I've been a men's empowerment coach, and I'm teaching men how to regulate and how to come home, but more than anything, actually how to feel and address the emotions that we've been taught to suppress our entire lifetime. So through my work, I have a massive calling, and it's been so clear over the last couple of years that yes, the fire service has been my life and it's been my passion, but more than anything, through my own journey, I found a deeper calling and a deeper purpose. Is to make sure that no man ever goes without being able to express. No man is ever sitting in his truck debating if life is worth living, right? Giving men that space to show up in their authentic self without the fear of judgment, and knowing that no matter where you come from, what you have walked through, that you have a way to be better, to reclaim the man that you are, to reclaim that power that you had, to reclaim the confidence in your life, within your relationship. And many men walking around just content to where they are now. It is my biggest passion and purpose and calling now to really call that back into men and help them find themselves. I was once lost as well. And through this work that Echo and I are going to teach in our Sacred Union Blueprint, it really brings you back into your power. So that's a little bit about me.
Aw, beautiful, babe. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So I'm Echo Summerhill. For those that don't know, yes, that is my real name. It is not a stage name. It's my real name. And I always like to say that because you'd be surprised how many people think that I invented that. And goodness, I'm a devoted wife, first and foremost, and mommy to our little boy. Oh, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a divine feminine embodiment mentor, a spiritual guide, a community leader. And my passion is truly kind of again, what we're going to be talking about polarity, where is on the other side of how he is here for men. And then I'm here to really help women awaken their femininity in essence, to heal the hustle, to step out of wounded masculine energy. And that stems from my own journey with the hustle and the grind and the forcing, pushing, pulling, the one that was leading in the marriage the first 8 or 6, 7 years, how whatever it was. Like I, like him, had a very traumatic, if you will, upbringing, and which then sent me into my own journey of living out of a trauma response, right? That controlling, wounded, Miss Independent, I'm a tough girl, I don't need nobody, I sure as heck don't need a man, energy that I just walked around with. And we're going to talk a little bit about this, but when we first met over 12 years ago, he loved my independence. He'd never met a woman that was as independent as me. I had my own thing. I wasn't trying to like get him to pay for things for me on the weekend. Like he was a firefighter, but still like, women sometimes. And he liked that I was like doing my own thing. I didn't need him. Okay. But what he loved about me eventually ended up being what he despised about me, and was one of the ways that a riff, if you will, was created. And we're going to talk deeper about our journey and kind of, I don't want to say like our full story, but what ended up happening later on is going to be a key piece to that. But for my journey, I had my awakening 7 years ago. And when I say awakening, I had a spiritual awakening to my higher self, to source, creator, God, the universe. Like I realized what was true. So many veils were lifted for me, but more importantly, it was around that divine feminine. So when I say divine feminine, we're going to get into that polarity tonight, but it's more or less, I realized I couldn't keep being in hustle energy. I couldn't keep feeling like I, as the woman, was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. And let us know in the comments if any of this resonates, but I naturally was a leader, and through his own trauma responses in our marriage, he started to take a back seat because I had to control everything. I mean, I just felt like if I didn't control everything, I was going to explode. If I didn't control everything and I wasn't responsible for everything, then it wasn't getting done right. And so it was just this energy where I had to really wake up and realize that's actually not how I was designed to be. And I truly believe this. Sorry, I'm having to let people in a little bit. I truly believe this, that, and this is my belief, again, anything that we teach, you take what you want and leave the rest. But I believe that as women on this planet, that if we are in a relationship with a man, that we are naturally meant to lead with our feminine energy, and the men are meant to lead in their masculine energy. We have both. We are polar. We have masculine and feminine energy in each of us, right? And it's beautiful. And when it harmonizes is when it's like off to the races of magic and abundance and everything great. But so many women on this planet live in wounded masculine energy, and a lot of men are living in wounded masculine or wounded feminine energy. And tonight we want to share with you how you can start to harmonize those energies within you, how the woman can start to lead or the man can start to lead. And if you're in a same sex, it's like one of you is going to want to lead with more masculine or more feminine, because that's what makes you freaking magnets. That's what makes the yin and the yang, right? So that's really what we want to deepen with y'all tonight, is kind of how we got there, tips and tricks to start to soften, again, becoming the surrendered wife. Which if you would have told me to be surrendered or to be in a little bit of submissive energy 7 years ago, I would have had my little feminist pants on, and I would have just said, no, wait, I'm a feminist. And so now it's like feminist, but now we're divine feminine. I'm not a feminist anymore, because I want and need my man in so many ways. And I want to be treated like a wee little princess a lot.
Yeah. And what's super important, and usually what comes up is from a man's perspective, is you're not able to lead within the household, right? Because in our example or case, right, Echo was very, very in that masculine due to her past stuff that was brought into the relationship. And then for me taking the back seat, again, it wasn't because of Echo, it was because of the past things. But we've never
Mhm.
been taught to really look in the past to see where those patterns are created and what we're actually bringing into the relationship to understand what we've created within the relationship, right? So a lot of men complain, and I'm gonna just use intimacy as the example, right? They complain because their wife doesn't desire them, right? Their wife is nagging, or their wife is constantly asking them to do something. And it was wild because everything's divine in how it happens. I just had this conversation today. The guy was like, "Man, me and my wife hadn't had sex in a couple of months, and it's so frustrating, and I just don't know what to do." And my first question is instead of placing blame on her, it's a reflection moment. Like, what are you not doing for her to feel the desire for you? Like, it's always a reflection, right? Well, and then it kind of slowly opened up. Well, the wife is in the real masculine energy and she will not come out of it and give him room. And then we dug a little deeper. Well, if the container's not safe for the feminine to actually step out of the masculine, they're not going to do it. So what are you not doing? And the first question I ask is, if you say you're going to do something, a lot of times do you follow through? And it falls through the cracks. He's like, yeah, I do that a lot. I go, because you're creating a container where it's not safe for her to step out of a masculine because she can't trust things are going to get done. And yes, that's a physical task, but that also connects very, very deeply with the emotional safety as well. So, men, if you're in a relationship right now where you feel you've taken the back seat, or your wife is kind of leading the household, or there's no desire from your wife to you for sexual connection, and it just feels so robotic, and you feel like you're existing and all your power has been out. I want you to really take the time and reflect, like, where did that start and where did the actions change? But more than anything, reflect on what is the man that you want to be? How do you view yourself? What do you desire within the relationship? And then you have to be that man, and it has to be consistent action. You know, the conversation got right. Well, I took a love language test, and I was treating her in her love language for 1 week, and she didn't give me any sex. So I said, screw it. And I was like, there is so much energy in that, of now it's just you're doing something with a hidden agenda attached to it. And the feminine's going to feel that. They have to feel emotionally safe to want to desire. But when they feel that something is a hidden agenda for you to, and that's why you're doing the act, it completely defeats the purpose. And he goes, well, I pay the bills. I work 2 jobs. I bring home. I said, dude, you can be a multi-millionaire, buy everything in the absolute world. But if you're not filling her cup in the way that she wants, needs, and desires, you might as well not be doing anything. And he sat there and he was like, and it was very eye-opening for him, right? Because as men, we are taught superficial level, right? My wife's not attracted to me, it's on her, or the main thing. We've been married for 19 years. It just is what it is. That is so untrue. So what I challenge you, and what I will challenge you to do, is let's go a little deeper. Instead of I'm not being desired. It's what am I not doing to let her desire me? How am I showing up? Right. And if she's constantly in that masculine energy, having to get stuff done, basically she has lost all respect for this man. So when the feminine does not respect the masculine, how can you expect her to want and desire you? It's not going to happen. So that's where I'm really calling for to men to dig deep into this work, to take a step back, being able to look in the mirror and reflect, like, what is my part in this? How am I showing up in the container? How can I be the best man possible, not just for her, but for a man, for myself, where I am proud, I am confident, and I am reclaiming my power within this relationship in my life. I always say, I want to be the man that my son sees me as. And that is such a powerful statement. If you don't have kids, still you can have that desire. But for those who have kids, that's a very powerful statement, because in their eyes, we are it. We are confident. We are everything. We are the superhero. But are we doing the actions to follow through on that, to create the container within the relationship so the feminine feels that we are that for them?
Ooh.
Woo! Jeez. Take a breath. Where's my water?
Well, I want to kind of like pull a little bit more out of you before I talk about surrendering as a woman, or in the feminine, because it's so, and we get deep into this in the Sacred Union Blueprint, but when a man is like, I'm doing everything and like I'm giving this or I'm doing that, like I feel that when that's happening, there's that little boy energy, right? And it's kind of like this pouty little boy. And then, like you said, that doesn't feel safe to the feminine. And we use the word safe. Obviously, like a lot of people, we're not talking about physical safety, but we're talking about that internal safety, right? Emotional safety, mental safety, like our central nervous system feels safe. But when I hear men being like, "Well, I do this and I do that," for me, that is a calling. So, and this is what the work is about. This is the work you do, but I feel such a deep calling for them to go in and just get right with themselves. Like you said, what kind of man do they want to be? Like, and that's where the inner child work comes in. That's where the really looking at the energetics of how they're carrying themselves, because we talk about this in the blueprint, but like men can do. So when I hear a man say like, I'm doing everything, or I do this and I do this and I work all day and then I come home and I shouldn't have to do XYZ or whatever, when we're teaching couples about like being in the queen and king energy, which we'll talk about, I want to remind people that like men have a 24-hour energetic cycle. And so every 24 hours, y'all's energy, hormonal energy turns over, right? Where we are on a 28 to 30-day cycle. So our energy, like we're literally biologically, physiologically not intended to carry as much as we do carry. And that comes from the feminist act. I'm not going to get into that. I go into that in the blueprint. But I feel for y'all, that's where men have to, and you were just talking about this the other day. That's why I want to bring it forth. That's where men really have to get right with themselves. Like that, what was that thing we heard where it was like, you can tell how a man loves him, how much a man really loves and respects himself
Mhm.
and believes in himself by his physical fitness or his the way he carries himself, treats himself, like takes care of himself so that he has the energy to be in the king, and not just the physical aspect, but just like taking care of themselves.
Yeah, it's that mental space. So a little just for my own deal, like when I come home from a 48-hour shift for the fire department, I have a routine. Like I physically go into the shower and I energetically cleanse and I spend time with myself and I do certain things. And that's part of taking care of yourself. And that's so important for the reasoning is some people will be like, well, that's selfish. You can't do X, Y, and Z. Some people, it looks like going to the gym. For some people, it looks like video games. Like there's all different types of things that men do to reset. Now, you got to be very careful because there's a difference between resetting and escaping. Okay. There's a completely different energy there, but you have to take care of yourself. Echo and I always say, I love this woman more than anything in this world, but at the end of the day, I have to put myself first energetically. And the reasoning for that is if I'm off energetically and I am the masculine leader of this household and I hold this container together, if I am off, it is felt that it's trickled down throughout the household, right? And guys, I'm sure you felt it too. If you come home and your wife is what you would call, if you're not familiar with the energies, but if your wife's just in the mood and she's bitchy or whatever you may title it, like there's an energy there that you recognize. So it's she hasn't spent time to herself to really reset and cleanse that and to be able to get back into her power. Because if we don't make sure that our container is clean first, then we can't serve others in the highest capacity of which we're capable of, right? So that's why self improvement is so crucial. And it's so important to make sure that you are cleansed yourself before you try to lead another container. And I think that's a huge example. If look at our work that we've done, we've been coaches and mentors for years, and each layer, something's gotten peeled back. And we've been able to heal through it, which has elevated us and it has taken us up energetically. So now we're able to facilitate and hold spaces in ways that we never could imagine. But we're only able to do that because we have walked through it and we've came out on the other side and we didn't bypass anything. I think that's one of the biggest things is when something comes up, people want to look at it as a superficial level, right? But if you look to it, that's usually just the symptom of a deeper thing. So for me, it was a lot of childhood stuff. It was my own self-worth, my own awareness around my own traumas, my relationship with my mother, right? The byproduct was me doing something stupid, which we talk about later in the Sacred Union Blueprint, but there's always something deeper to it. So when you have these conversations, instead of going into it with judgment and anger, let's go into it with the compassion of understanding of what is deeper, right? And it's not an argument argument to win. It's an argument to learn and understand our partner and have compassion of what they're going through or what they've been through. But at the same time, it's about getting on the same page moving forward so you can create the relationship that you desire. I love you.
I love you.
On it.
You're like in your channel, and I'm like, oh, oh. And that's why I'm like keeping you. I know I'm fish. Jessica says fire. I'm keeping you here until, and then I'll go into the feminine, and we're not going to keep y'all more than an hour. But so before I move into the feminine, I want you to speak to the men and what is steadfast like king energy to you? What are some of the habits? What are some of the inner energy things? But like, what are some of the mindset shifts? What are some of the things? Because what we're sharing with y'all tonight is a bunch of awareness, right? We want y'all to walk away. I always teach that 75% of the healing is awareness, and the other 25% is healing and taking action on that which you just became aware of. So you're going to get a lot of like, aha, oh my gosh, yes, this is me tonight. But we're going to have some homework for you too. And some of that homework I feel like is writing down some of these things, like tuning into, oh, am I a steadfast husband? Am I in king energy? And I want to say this before you dive into that. Like, the reason that Danny and I are so passionate and decided to create the Sacred Union Blueprint and decided to really put more of this out into the world over the last few years, really now building up from the last few years, we've been coaching couples for over 6 years together. I've been a transformational life coach for 15 years. He's been coaching men for 5, 6 years. But a couple of years ago, we had this craziness happen in our life, which you hear about in another thing. And it was this catalyst, right, to our like he said, deeper healing, deeper. But we truly feel right now that you're here for a reason, whether watching live or the replay, that there are unions that are cracking wide open, that are desiring to come into creation of sacred union, meaning that there's a lot of disruption in unions right now, but the collective and as a whole, there are sacred unions asking to be awakened all day, every day. And we see it all day, every day. And so it's important that, this work is getting out there. And so if some of this is like, I could never be that husband, or I could never be that wife, when I start talking about the feminine, like, we get it. We were there. Like, if you would have told us 7, 8 years ago that this is like the journey, this is where we would be, this is how surrendered I'd be, this is how steadfast he'd be, I'd be like, yeah, right. Like, this is just, or you might be feeling hopeless, right? This is just the tip of the iceberg. But if you were talking to a man, what would you explain? What are just some examples of what steadfast king energy, like steadfast husband energy is to you?
Yeah, so I feel called to share what it was to what it got to real
Mm.
quick, and I won't take long. But before, right before I did the healing, the deep inner work, and before I found myself again, yes, I was super confident, almost borderline cocky when I got with Echo, right? Chasing a cougar like this, and I landed her, like, come on, right? I was cocky. So what that looked like into the relationship as it got deeper and deeper was I started to take that back seat. I didn't have the confidence, right? I started shrinking my truth. I was unable to show up and ask for what I wanted and needed and desired within the relationship. I feared confrontation. I feared asking for anything that I needed, right? And not because she was creating that space, because of the story I told myself and the things that I didn't heal before I got into the relationship. So a lot of our own shit had nothing to do with Echo, which a lot of your shit right now as a guy probably has not a lot to do with your wife. It's the inner stories that we tell ourselves, right? That we're not enough, which is wild because the feminine tells themselves they're too much, right?
Yeah.
So the masculine has that the opposite, but again, the polarity, both sides. So I was meek. I didn't lead my family. I was not confident. I wasn't showing up on social media. I ended up doing things behind the scenes that created more and more shame, right? And I saw myself as this higher figure, right? My higher self. I saw him when I closed my eyes, and every time I saw him, I resented him because I wasn't him, and I knew that was my truth. So when we started this healing journey, that was my route to get to, right? So now fast forward, after sitting in the very uncomfortable things that men have avoided all their life, which are emotions, which are past traumas, all the things that we are told not to sit with, just numb out, right? Compartmentalize and move forward. If you do the work, you're going to come out on the other side as a confident man, able to lead your family with confidence, confident in your workplace, You're going to be the man that your kids believe that you are. You're not going to have shame. You're going to walk around not with a backpack of boulders, but with a backpack full of pride, ready to go, ready to lead, and ready to be the example for your children, for yourself, for the man that is looking at himself thinking it's not possible. You are the example. You will be the example. When you go through it, you're just a walking example of what can happen. So, my testimony is very deep and I can resonate with a lot of men, but we may not be the same. So imagine you walk through it. Now they hear your testimony and now it resonates. And now you've just elevated someone and gave them hope. So I promise you, if you do this work, you can be that. So what does it look like inside of the container? It looks like when I show up in the masculine energy, I am in my divine masculine energy. And that looks like I am grounded, I am calm, I respond, I don't react. I'm not quick to jump, right? I create a safety within the relationship so the feminine can show up and request and desire anything that she wants. If she needs to offload or just express and just go crazy, I can hold all of it. This woman will never be too much for me, ever. And I'm only that way because I've built the strength within myself to be able to hold that. If I didn't heal the things I needed to heal, then I would be weak. The container is weak, right? So when she would test me, and she still tests me, all the feminine will test you every day. Whether, and here example, small test, babe, can you take out the trash? If I don't stay true to my word when I say yes and I don't take it out, that is now a small test that I failed, and now the container just got a little weaker. So if I can't be trusted to take out the trash, how can I be trusted to hold her emotionally when she needs to offload and express? Everything falls into place. But when you have the polarity of both the masculine and the feminine, and you understand that, especially as the masculine, you're able to show up in your truth and in your power and create that safety within the relationship. So now not only can you communicate, but your intimacy, the connection, everything will grow because the safety within the relationship is there.
Mm.
Thank you.
Oh, so true. And I want to speak to the men really quick before I get into the feminine energy. That was so good and so true and just so wild. And some people that might be new to us, because I know that not everybody that's here is been along our journey.
Yeah.
Danny's always been this man. Okay. So you may be looking at him going, oh, he was never meek. He was never this, like, whatever. It's not that he wasn't manly. He's always been the manliest man I know, right? Like he's always been the tough guy. But in our marriage is where, when on the other side, when I reflected back in hindsight, like, oh, wow, like he never told me no. If I tried to pick a fight or tried to argue, he would just be passive and pretty much like tell me you're right, like whatever you want, like in so many ways, energetically, mentally, emotionally, in order to avoid conflict because of his abandonment wounds, because if he was afraid he was going to get abandoned by me, so then he would just kind of be passive. So it's not that he wasn't manly. So if you're a manly guy watching this, either there's the couple of different masculine, there's the passive masculine, right, which is that energy, or the wounded masculine, which is more of the anger, control, like energies, right?
Yeah, and I do want to say, and we brought this up, it felt like I was living two lives. At the
Yeah.
fire station, I was an officer, I was a leader. My station was known for how we showed up and just how fucking awesome we were, right? Because I was a leader, I was strong, I was confident, I was moving with that confidence. And it's like when I came home, I left that at the station, but I didn't know how to lead my own house. And it was such a wild feeling to be able to feel like you're living two different lives. I'm one way at home, but I'm polar opposite when I'm out and about in public, when I'm speaking on stages, when I'm coaching, or if I'm at the firehouse. I'm this confident leader. I don't know how many times I heard throughout the marriage, I wish you were the man at home that you are at the fire station.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's deep.
And but he couldn't be until we did this work together, until we did the work of the sacred union blueprint, until we did the sacred union creation work, because I, in my feminine, was so programmed for so long. Now, again, my divine feminine awakening started 7 years ago, and I did a ton of work, like who I was 7 years ago to even who I was like almost 3 years ago before the trauma and tragedy hit our marriage. Like I was a different woman. I was more surrendered, which I'm going to talk to you about what that means. I was more in my feminine. I was in more of that energy, but he wasn't budging as much. he was doing some personal development work. He was doing the stuff. We were coaching um, couples, which is so funny to look back at now with what we walked through, but it's like part of it because we were actually really damn good at coaching couples even before all of the secrets came out, right? And this advice is not for anybody that has walked through betrayal. That's not who this is all for. This is for anybody that has communication issues, that feels like their intimacy is lacking, they need to build trust again through follow through, whatever. Like there's so much. That's just a symptom. That's not the thing. But I had done so much work, but I still was like wanting more from him. And I was begging him for more. I was like, why aren't you like, you talk this, like, talk about how you are. I see you when you're like in the energy at the fire station. Like, why don't you bring that leader home? And he's like, I don't know, babe. Like, and like never really had an answer. Well, then all of our stuff came out, his stuff came out, and then it all made sense, right? It was all his trauma response, all his wounding. And it also made sense, though, why there was still so much missing for me. And I had not ever fully surrendered until a year, 2.5 years ago. Okay. Because internally, I knew that it wasn't safe for me to on a soul level, but also the fact that I knew he couldn't hold me fully in that. And so, yes, I was afraid of being too much. I was afraid of being too soft because I was afraid I was going to get hurt. I was afraid that surrender meant weakness. I was afraid that it meant that I was just like this little, like, weak little woman, and that's my own trauma response, right? Because everything we need to look at in these situations is so important because it's so much deeply rooted, right? Your miscommunication even is a symptom, right? Because you didn't learn how to communicate, or you have abandonment issues, or you have these, things. For me, being in my feminine, I used to make fun of really feminine women, the women that were like just doting over their husbands, or like flailing around wearing pink, like lighthearted, like women. I was always like the tough bitch energy, right? But after the last few years, like I've softened so much and realized that I'm meant to be more in my heart, which is the surrendered space. I'm meant more to let him lead in so many ways in the masculine energy that I had honestly taken on as my own because of that independence. And so I've learned to surrender, but only because I've healed the deep inner child wounds, the wound that thought that honestly thought that soft women, or women that catered to men, or women that treated their men like kings, were weak. And I never wanted to be weak because I grew up with a weak woman my entire life, and it just angered me, right? But once you start to heal those aspects of yourself, you start to soften and you start to do the work together. There's nothing more that I want to do than to treat him like a king. And the flip side of that is there's nothing more that he wants to do for me than to treat me like the queen.
Yeah.
And to treat each other like that. It's not, my Nana always said, my Nana, before my granddad died, they were married for almost 70 years. And they had gone through hell and back in their marriage many a time. 70 years, no joke. Like, they stuck it out through thick and thin. And she said, she always told me, marriage is not, or relationship is not 50-50. It's 110 and it's 110. And when you're giving 110 as much as you can, then on those days where you only have 50 to give, then the other person's going to give you some grace, but it's both of you in this. And so I couldn't be in my surrendered feminine, in my surrendered wife era of allowing him to make the decisions. Y'all, for feminine, it's the simple things like, I don't want to talk to customer service people. These sound like silly things, but I don't want to talk to customer service people. He talks to all customer service people. It is very rare. I have to breathe if I have to get on the phone with a customer service person. It's horrible. I don't like it. It's like a thing. I can get on a stage of 10,000 people and talk, but getting on the phone to customer service, no, that's him, right? Little things like, and these may seem frilly to you, but I'm telling you, when you feel so safe to be in your femininity and feel freaking taken care of, there's no other feeling like it. I don't pump my own gas. Okay. My best friend made fun of me the other day because I was like, we pulled up to go to the spa, and Danny, it was like a last minute deal that I was driving, and I was like, oh no, I only have 40 miles to empty, and we had to drive downtown, and I like got out and I was like, I gotta pump my own gas. And she's like, you don't pump your gas? Danny does it. And I was like, yeah, every time. I'll put home on 10 miles just to make sure he does it. And she was like, well, do you want me to pump it for you? And I was like, no, I can do it. I just don't want to. And so it was just funny. But like, it's the little things, right? But it takes building that trust, which we get into in the blueprint, which we're going to tell you all about. But for me, he said this, I don't want y'all to take what he said with the like trash with testing, because I'm not testing him like, will you take the trash out? But ultimately, everything is a test, right? Like in life, we're either going to rise to the occasion or we're going to fall to the occasion. So I don't ask him to take the trash out. Number one, I don't have to. But number two, now, because he is a steadfast husband now, because he follows through with his word now, but those are the little things that crack the trust over time, right? It doesn't have to be some big betrayal to crack your trust. It could be that the man doesn't feel good enough because of this reason or that reason from his childhood. So he never really learned to step into that and feel safe in his king energy. So he just lets things, he doesn't follow through. And then what happens with the masculine when they don't follow through for you over time, over and over again with little things, then you just stop asking. I just stopped asking. I just started taking the trash out. I like took over everything in our marriage years ago, right in the beginning. And it was like not because of anything, but then what happens when you, as the feminine, start to take over all the things and you burn out and you're exhausted and you feel like you are the one, in charge of everything. You're responsible for paying the bills and doing the things and all the things. Then what builds? Resentment. Then what closes? Your vagina. Okay. You don't want anything to do with a man that is not making you feel like a freaking queen or taking care of you or at least taking the load, half the load, or even asking you, hey, babe, this is one of the best things he does. And this is through these conversations with your partner, you can ask these questions as a part of your homework. Like, what can I do to, I would ask Danny this. So like, what can I do to be it more in my feminine for you? What does that look like and feel like for you? And he would tell me like, um, for me, it was controlling. It was like not in a bitchy, controlling, nagging way, but a controlling way of like, I would make all the decisions. I would make all the appointments. I would make all the dinner plans. I would just like take control of everything. And he would be like, let me handle it. Like that's one of his favorite things to say. He can tell I'm starting to get into my wounded masculine. He's like, I've got it, babe. Like, let me handle it. Like with the littlest things and the biggest things, as much as he wants to take off of my plate, as much as he can, because he's taking care of himself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, he can take a lot off my plate, even doing the damn dishes. The more he takes off my plate, the more I get to be in receiver mode as the feminine. The feminine is the receiver. The masculine is the doer, the action, the giver a lot of times. Now we give, it's just in a different energy, but we're here to receive as the queen. And the more he can do that, the more surrendered I get to be in my central nervous system, in my body, in my mind, and my emotions. He's taking that weight for me because he physically, mentally, emotionally, physiologically, biologically can hold more than me, especially when he's taking care of himself. And then I get to surrender, and he's got a soft, beautiful, powerful still. Surrender doesn't mean weak. I'm still in my power, and I will still cut somebody if I have to, right? Because the queen don't put up with nothing, right? I see Jessica up there laughing. But it's like, I'm still a badass. I still run multiple businesses. I still do the things. But for him, I flip that switch and I'm his pretty, pretty little princess, his freak in the sheets, because I'm allowed to be surrendered because he carries so much more than me in that realm.
Yeah, I think it's creating the safety for you to be everything you desire to be, right? And I think it's really important. Like when you have the conversations, and I'll ask Echo all the time, like, what can I do today to make you feel just surrendered and just really in your energy? And she'll name it, right? An example. So if Echo tells me, hey, like, I've been super busy, we've been creating this, and Echo cannot sit down and relax. We're calling you Echo.
I know it
Echo
is
cannot
weird.
sit down and relax
Baby can't
unless,
sit down.
right, unless like the dishes are done in the kitchen, right? But if I went to her, I was like, I don't give a shit about the dishes, just come sit with me. what that's actually saying is I don't care or respect what makes you feel comfortable to get in your feminine. So it's a lot deeper, right?
Right.
So it's you got to be careful. So when you ask these questions of what can I do to make you soften or to feel empowered in your energy today, regardless of what it is, if it's something stupid to you or dumb, whatever it may be, they just gave you the playbook to make them surrendered and soften and step into their energy. So you respect that request
Mhm.
because if you shit on it, now they just heard to you it's not important if I get in that. To you, you that's not something you desire me in that energy. So when they tell you these things,
Or it's too much.
or it's too much,
I'm too
right?
much.
So that's what you have to understand is when you ask for these things, realize that they're giving you the gift and the tool to be able to get them in that energy. There's nothing I like more than when she steps out of line a little bit, I give her this look now and I put her in her place. And then used to, I wouldn't even say anything, right? Not confident. There's no way in hell I would correct or say anything to Echo, especially in the moment, right? But now it's like if we go to valet and I start to hand the ticket and she starts saying, "Yeah, we're parked," I'll look at her and be like, I got you, babe." And then
And I go, oh,
she's like, "You're right." But then then I get like a little butt pinch because it turns her on, right? Because I'm taking that lead and I'm taking that role of I got you. You don't have to do anything. You just exist. And this doesn't show anywhere more than when we travel. Holy shit. This woman will just walk around clueless, not
you
giving
know
a
that
damn, and
that
just
like the women's like what I'm doing when we're traveling and walking in the airport and it's like do 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 and it's just like music and it's like da 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 and then it's the guy and it's like exits here left here we got to turn right at the top it's like all that and I'm like but that's what driving I don't pay attention when he drives. This is another thing, lady, we're going to dive so deep
yeah.
into all of this and how to more deeply heal this, but I hope this is like bringing some awareness through. I used to be a passenger princess, no, a passenger warrior,
Mm-hmm.
a passenger little biatch. I would like tell him how to
Turn your
drive.
blinker on.
That you know that you are not in surrendered feminine, okay? You are not in surrendered wife energy if, and this is like one of the first things that we'd usually talk to our couples about too, like that we work with. But it's like if you are doing this every time he's driving and sort of, and this man drives like he's always driving a fire truck, he thinks everybody should get out of his way, he feel it's just like I mean it is, I still make that noise sometimes but I just keep it to myself. But a good sign that you can tell you're not in your surrendered feminine is if you are trying to be a backseat driver and you're freaking out, because this is one of the biggest teachings. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to get to this place because I didn't just surrender to him, y'all. He had to work for it. Okay. And that's a lot of how it is. Maybe it's the opposite way. Maybe the wife's a little like distant or whatever, passive. I don't know. It's usually this dynamic though. But I asked myself, I was like, okay, if I'm wanting to trust this man with everything, my heart, my my emotions, my physical body, like sexually, like all these things, and I can't even trust that he is driving in a way that he deems safe for us, for our son, right? Like think about that. We're sitting here going, like they don't, unless your man's wrecking every week, there's no reason for you to do that because he loves you. He loves your children if you have kids. And is he really driving in a way that he thinks like, oh yeah, I'm gonna scare the shit out of her. I'm gonna wreck soon and I'm just gonna be dangerous. No, he's not thinking that. He's driving in the way he drives, and you're just not feeling in control. And that's what sucks when you need to release control as a woman in this lifetime. That's a prime example of ways that you can start to release a little bit of control. If you have to close your eyes and just breathe, let the man drive. But again, I want to go to, I did not just surrender to him. He had to earn that trust with me, especially over the last few years. He had to earn my heart again. He had to earn that trust by consistent, committed, aligned action every single day. And we get into this deep in the blueprint, which I'm about to tell you about, but he had to show up for himself. I had to know that he was doing his best every day, just like I was, but he was doing his best every day to become a better man, by doing the work, by just doing the work. And we're going to talk about what the work means. Same as I was trying to be a better woman, not him trying to be a better husband first. My thing for so long was I'm the one doing all the work. I'm the one doing the deep healing work, the personal development work, this work, that work, whatever. Like, what the hell is he doing? Well, I didn't know he was dying in shame because that's what he was doing. But now, what I needed from him, and when we were on our way out the door almost 3 years ago, and we decided to fight for our marriage, I told him that, and he finally came to grasp with that, that he actually had to do the work for himself first and foremost, not to save our marriage, not to save our family, but he needed to do it for himself and his own soul and his own existence.
Yeah, and I think the most powerful moment I've had throughout my healing was almost a year into the healing process. Echo and I were in deep in the ceremony, and I was channeling, I felt it and I see it, and it just hit me. After all the work I've done on myself, I regained who I was as a man. And I looked over at Echo and I go, I don't need you anymore. Like,
Mhm.
I don't need you. Whatever happens with us, I don't need you anymore. I go, but I desire you.
And when I want to interject, I used to say that to him all the time and it pissed him off. I don't need you, I want you.
Mhm.
And he couldn't grasp that because of all the things he was holding on to. And when he said that in ceremony, we're in a plant medicine ceremony, it's a heart, and it was like when he said that, makes me emotional, I get goosebumps.
Mhm.
I felt like the weight of the world was finally like lifting off my shoulders, because it's not a good, healthy feeling to have the wounded energies gripping onto you and needing you, like grasping on in that way. I wanted him to desire me and to love me unconditionally. And yes, ultimately, we joke now that we do need each other. It's just not in the needy energy. But I always felt such heavy weight, like, holy shit, once again, I'm responsible for his happiness. I'm responsible for his entire livelihood. I'm responsible for how happy he is. I'm responsible for how much he loves him. Like, I was responsible for it. So when he said that, I felt like, oh wow. Like, I felt like he finally took his power back. And it was like so beautiful.
Yeah, that was a big wake up call for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And so it happens though with the trust, right? And so the same thing with him asking me, what like we ask each other, like, what do you need from, what can you do for me? And then I'll ask you, hey, what can I do for you today? Like,
Mhm.
what are things that I can, what energy can I play in for you today? Like, what is it? And we like talk about it, and we you approach each other from a playful way, but that's not going to happen until you do quite a few other things. And I want to say, like, with the homework we want to give you before we start diving in, I want to tell y'all for a few minutes about the Sacred Union Blueprint. um that some of your homework is going to be going through this with your partner and like asking these questions, like, what do you feel I could do to be more a better wife? What do you think I could do to be a better woman, more feminine? What are these things that we desire from each other, right? But that's not always going to feel safe if there's not a safe container. So, what I encourage you to do, and what I mean by safe is not knowing how to healthy communicate
Yeah.
things, is to really be soft with these questions and to set the intention together, like, I want to know what I can do to be better for you. What do you think is keeping us disconnected? Why do you feel that our sex life is out? And there's going to be what y'all just heard us talk about in 50 minutes. There's a lot of things to bring to the forefront in communication, And so ask each other these questions, but set the intention beforehand that, hey, let's set a container where we can ask each other these questions, not in a negative, bitchy way, not in a you don't do this, I don't, blah, blah, blah energy, but just like in your hearts, asking each other, what can we do to be better for each other? Or what do you think the disconnect is for us? Because we see it all the time. Again, there's so many aspects to creating a sacred union. And that's what we are here to help usher in. That's what we want to help facilitate for couples,
Mhm.
is to create that. A union is only sacred when there are two committed, willing participants investing in themselves to heal past traumas. And that's scary. I just like saw all these guys being like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a big thing you talk about, but like, it's not easy. It doesn't mean that when we tell you about the program, you join the program and like you're like broken down crying, guys. Like that's not it,
No, it's
right?
definitely taking it a little bit at a time, right? It's
Mhm.
not, the first module and stuff. We're not diving deep into childhood wounds and addressing all these things. No, we're teaching you the foundation of how to be able to communicate to create a safe place so space can be held. So eventually you can get to the deeper stuff, right?
Mhm.
It's you have to start small. We crawl, we walk, and then we run, right? So that's the same thing, but the most important thing to understand is this is a journey. This is not a destination. Once you begin this healing and layers start getting peeled back and the veil is lifted and you're seeing things from a different perspective, your curiosity comes in and wondering why you have certain patterns and what you've learned throughout your life. It's like, okay, now I understand, like, this is a lifelong deal, but it's such a beautiful journey. And I say beautiful because I want to honor the contrast of you have to have the dark to receive the light. There's
Mhm.
both ends of it. You can't just, and I love this analogy, especially for my first responder guys. Like if you get hooked up to a monitor right now, your heart beats, it goes up and down because we are meant to live in the highs and the lows. So we have that contrast. Any moment that you're in the center and you're flatlined, you're
Mhm.
dead, you're not living. So I love that analogy because it shows and it really puts energy in towards we are meant for both sides, the contrast to it.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. And I want to say before we share with you, because I know everybody that joined this list, the almost 200 people that are going to get this in their inbox later, um, that they joined for the Sacred Union Blueprint. And I also want to say that we wouldn't be here together
Yeah.
if it weren't for the darkest times of our life. And that's something really powerful, and I'm so grateful for all the lows, because I teach my soul up ladies this all the time, but like without challenge we would not ascend as souls. We would not go up in frequency. We would not learn. You don't When everything is perfect, right, seemingly perfect, yeah, it's great, and you can anchor in so much gratitude, and you can grow in like thoughts of gratitude and abundance and appreciation. But like, do you really grow when everything's gravy, baby? It's like, no, it's like you have to have those lows and those challenges to learn something new, to clear something that needs to be healed. Whatever it is, you have to have those. And the sooner that you can actually look at your challenges, your struggles in your relationship as a teacher, as going, here is what needs to be worked on, then that's where you're going to start to see some of the most powerful growth. And that's also the journey that we have been on. We've been on this healing union journey for 7 years, but really the last 2.5 years in the depths and depths and depths. And this has been the Sacred Union Blueprint, has been years in the making, months of prep work. And tonight, today, whenever you watch this, we are officially launching it to the world.